Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for still being here. If your brain is anything like mine by this time of day, it's slightly addled, especially after it's full of all the really exciting things that we've been finding out today. My name is Sophie Smith. I'm kind of here with two different hats on, because I've got two little stickers. Well, I'll press some buttons. I'm very excited about having this. My first hat is that I'm here from a place called the Institute of Creative Technologies, which is at Montfort University in Leicester. And it's a transdisciplinary research institute. So what we do is we kind of encourage exciting collaborations between artists, e-science, technology, engineering, digital humanities, get either lots of different people in one room and see what happens, or we get different people who can do all that kind of thing in one brain, which absolutely foxes me. As part of that, we run a master's programme in creative technologies, which is getting individuals to work across these different discipline areas, which is something which is very pertinent, I think, to this kind of transmedia way of working. One thing that's been addling my brain today is having all those different things in my head, wrestling a bit of the creative bit and a bit of the techno bit and having a battle in my head. So that's why they've stuck me in the academic bit. But also what we do at the IOCT is we do a lot of practice-based research, which is doing research, but which ends up in a kind of creative product or bit of practice. And related to that, I also work as the co-director of a live art company called Assault Events. We've been going for about 16 years now, and we make live performance events that fuse contemporary dance, theatre and original music. Now, what's really important to our work in the company is audience, and throughout the years we've kind of been developing this style of what we call creative consultancy, which is rather than making performance work and then finding people to show it to and going, isn't it great, don't you love it, we work out who our audience is. We go and we used to do physical workshops with them to find out the kind of thing that they'd want to go and see at the theatre. Then we put these shows on. So first of all, we do theatre work, but we do it for non-traditional audiences in non-traditional venues. So our whole idea is to go out and to make work that people want to see, and that might not be in a traditional theatre venue. It might be down the pub, it might be in a nightclub, it might be in the shopping arcade, or it might be online, who knows? And that's where this project came from. I got a few years ago, because we do a lot of work to do with creative collaboration, and I thought, well, we're always working in the performance studio, that's where we meet up, dancers, theatre types, musicians. Well, there's this thing called Facebook now, isn't there? So actually, if everybody's meeting up socially on Facebook, why can't we use this as a kind of space to do creative work instead? So in 2009, we did a little project called Feedback, which was looking at how you could use Facebook as a space for creative collaboration. And we made a piece of work using that as a venue. And then, ever since then, we were trying to find some people to fund other ways of making performance work online and using social media. But nobody was interested. All the kind of funding organisations would look at us really oddly, as if this was a stupid thing to do. But we persevered and persevered. And this year we got a little bit of money from Future Dream for, it was a bursary that they called Theatre in the Cloud. And the idea was, it was to look at different ways that you could do digital theatre and digital theatre online. And that was funded by the Arts Council and Kent County Council, which is very kind of them. So, this is what we said we wanted to do. We wanted to look at the potential of transmedia tools to create multimedia cross-platform environments for performance that would be exciting, immersive and participative. So that was our big plan. And the way that we wanted to do it was, though we it was a transmedia project, the idea was that it would be accessed through social media tools that people use generally, so that people could engage with the project. They didn't have to learn any new technology. They could kind of just jump on and see what happened. So this is what happened. It's a very small project, and it was a research project. And the problem with research, or the delight of research, is you never know where it's going to go, because that's research. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not sure whether this project worked or didn't work. It still confuses me, which is why it's funny I'm standing here talking about it, because every minute I change my mind about how I feel about it. So I don't know where I'm going to end this talk. We only had a small amount of money. We had £4,000 to do this project. And as anybody who works in performance will know, £4,000 doesn't go a very long way when you're making work, because to make work you need people. And you know, it's only fair to pay people, really. So we did a little project, and these are the people involved. This woman here is Shannon Sickles, and she's our writer. So she was helping with the writing for the project. There is Sandy Fisher here, who I run the company with, and a dancer here called Stevie Prickett. Here he's being George Best. There's myself down there. I'm also a musician, and I was working with this guy, Tim Dickinson, to write the music. And at the top is Coco Chanel, who was also in our project. Not the Coco Chanel, obviously. Right, now this is where the complication started in this journey, was that we're an interdisciplinary company. We're used to working with lots of disciplines at the same time: dance, theatre, music, visual arts, film. Surely there would be no problem in translating this into a transmedia environment. However, what it dawned on me was that we do work across disciplines, but we work across disciplines onto a single platform. Even if it's not a traditional stage, it's a stage of some sort somewhere. What we were confronted now was having to kind of present our multiple media on multiple broadcast channels simultaneously. There's a little picture of that. And yes, look, this is my ideal of what I thought might happen in my dreams. See, look, this is our lovely project here, and all these little different social media planets would be going around it in a really beautifully ordered way, and it would all be kind of in sync and gorgeous. However, it ended up a bit more like this picture of the universe. Quite frankly, chaos. There probably was order in there somewhere, but it took a bit of finding it. And that's a picture there of all the internet connections, and I actually thought they looked quite nice and similar. So there's a thesis in there anywhere if somebody wants to follow it. This is what happened. We had lots of conversations with myself as the director and the writer, just in a complete flurry of confusion about how to translate and how to put this kind of idea of performance onto multiple media platforms. And I was looking at somebody's work earlier on, the dining room table with all the paper on it. And this is the kind of world that Shannon and I were living in. We were on the phone to each other and we're just surrounded, and the only way we could do it, very undigitally, was to actually stick pieces of paper on the floor with different words written on them and move them around. And this is what we discovered. This is what we were really struggling with. And a few people have said it today, and it seems to be quite an ongoing challenge, which is we had to develop an artistic infrastructure that worked really well and effectively with the technological infrastructure. What we started to do at the beginning was we thought we had a great idea, and then you go, oh, I can just put that onto these different platforms, that will work a treat. But as anybody knows who's tried it, it doesn't work a treat at all, because all these different tools have their own kind of characteristics and their own tendencies which we needed to integrate. So this is how we did it. We worked with a writer, and we wrestled out that really the social media performance spaces and the tools that we were using really started to influence the creative work that we were making. And this, for me, in one of the bits of research, is the really interesting bit. We were using Conductor to run this, and actually Conductor became one of the creative collaborators. It wasn't just a musician and a dancer and a director anymore. It was the musician, the dancer, the director, and conductor, or these social technology tools, that actually that was as much of an important creative force in making this thing as the humans were. So the way that we managed to do it was that we assigned different social media tools to the different characters, depending on what these characters were going to be in our performance. So these are our character names. We have Dirty Evangelica, a character called Nutric Excess, a character who are a duo but called the Trainer Crew, and Candy Rap. Dirty Evangelica can see and hear. Nutric Excess you can read. Trainer Crew you could see on video and hear, and Candy Rap you could see, read and hear. So we started to kind of map out how these different characters would portray themselves. And more importantly, we started to map out the different social media tools that they would use. So this at the top is a picture of a hopscotch, because Nutric Excess, this whole performance was, well, you'll see in a minute whether or not it was a performance, was set in a fictitious nightclub called Hopscotch Highway. And it was, the impresario was Nutric Excess, and his ageing diva was Dirty Evangelica. To cut a long story short, you had Trainer Crew, who were the young whippersnappers, and Candy Rap, who was the up-and-coming new diva who was usurping all the power of the somewhat older Dirty Evangelica. So in line with that, Dirty Evangelica and Nutric Excess are too old to use all this stuff. This is what the young people use. And so we decided that Dirty Evangelica wouldn't use any of these tools at all. Nutric Excess at the top, being the club impresario, would run the nightclub website, and through that we had automatic Twitter feeds coming and then automatic YouTube feeds. And then from Candy Rap would use, and Trainer Crew would both use Facebook. Candy Rap being very much a character that was of the moment, all the time on the phone, saying what was going on, updating things, would use Twitter and would also use Vine, as would Candy Rap. So we used this to really map out the characters and the different technologies that they would use. So you can see then, and I'll show you an example about how this actually works, that we had it was based around a Facebook group for the nightclub. And from there we sent out information via Twitter, YouTube and Vines that was sent from the fictitious nightclub. And then from that we would have these different characters that the audience could access. So there'd be the Trainer Crew on Facebook and Vine, Candy Rap on Facebook, Vine and Twitter, and these are the audience on Facebook and Twitter as well. This is Shakespeare on a computer. The reason Shakespeare was on a computer here is because I wanted to reiterate again the importance that what we suddenly realised we had to do was that these new tools are making us make new work, and it's a really exciting time for people working in digital performance now, because to make the most of these transmedia tools, it's not about getting something that already exists, for example like Romeo and Juliet, and putting it in a transmedia environment. What's really exciting is that it's going to make new work, and we have no idea what that work's going to be, except it's going to be quite messy getting there. So this is one kind of really big change that it made to our practice working in these transmedia environments, was that we realised that you could start making work by using the same social media tools that your audience were going to be presented with. So for example, our writer, rather than writing the script, assigned the devisers for this piece a set of challenges, a set of treasure hunt exercises. So this was the email that we all got as performers, and people had to take 7 things. So for all performers had to go out, and we were in different cities. A couple of people were in Belfast, some people were in Cardiff, I was up in Sheffield. That we had to go out and we had to take photos of an urban sprawl, an empty bed, gatecrasher glamour, whatever that is, attitude, a fallen angel, hopscotch, things like this. So it was really up to the performer and the deviser to go out and take photos of what they wanted. And as well as that, there were a variety of character-specific things that people had to go and get. We then sent those to the writer, which meant really that rather than using this process meant that the writer shaped things that were being sent in by the performers. So using these social media tools made a completely new way for the performers to create an identity and to create character. So instead of either having a script and that being given to them, or by working in a studio environment where they would come up with a character, they were making this character up through choosing photographs, through through making films of themselves and really constructing their character in a different way. I just put that there to remind me. My day's been a bit like that today. I feel like I'm going back a changed person. The way that this performance environment happened was that it was a page on Facebook that was based around this fictitious nightclub called Hopscotch Highway. And for a while we just set up this environment and people friended the page, and we set it up as a nightclub. So the post, there would be links to music, some existing and stuff that had been pre-written, especially written for this piece, and there would be photos and comments that people were adding. And then we would build up so that over a particular weekend in May, the narrative would start and it would run. So I think it was over 24 hours from a Saturday afternoon to a Sunday afternoon. Through this page would come a narrative from these different characters. So this is the Facebook page, and you can see that there are some posts here from the actual nightclub, from the page itself, and there are posts from the different characters. And the idea is that as an audience member or a participant, you would engage with this and you would construct your understanding of what was happening. And very slowly through Twitter and Facebook, you would be able to see these characters interacting and a story would unfold based on videos that people were uploading, music tracks, a bit like you were using in your work really, music tracks that would give a bit of depth to the story as well and construct this kind of environment this way. I have to say the key bit here was, and the problem I said earlier with a small budget is, we had money to explore the environment, but we didn't have any money to actually make any performance other than some music. So what we did was what I like to call harvested it from the internet. So we constructed this actual fake nightclub night out by borrowing other people's vines and borrowing other people's photographs of nights out and releasing them as if they were happening over this 24 hours. This is the Facebook page of the trainer crew. Just a little snapshot of it. Again, showing video links to give a bit more depth about and understanding about character. And here is Candy Wraps. So the audience, or the participants who are engaged with this, it was only research, there were I think 76 people in the end kind of participated and fed into it. Could either have a look at the nightclub page and follow it that way, or they could follow particular characters and their experiences through the story. These are photos that were uploaded by our audience members of themselves on nights out, which we used. We also had a YouTube channel where we put on related music tracks. And we also had a couple of Twitter feeds relating to that as well. Here's one of the vines that we borrowed. And there's Candy Wraps. So, what struck me, and it may have struck other people working in this field, is that traditionally, when you're watching a piece of theatre, you kind of have your meaning. There are plot points. These circles here are plot points. They're very obvious plot points. And through all these different ideas you get of characters, you get an idea of the story as a whole. But what I found out really when we were doing this project was, instead of the important red bits being here and these major plot points, it was in fact this way. And what this is the space in between. And we found this was a really interesting way to engage the audience, in that because it worked over 24 hours and there were particular points when information was released, they were making all the connections. We weren't making a story really, really obvious. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. They were kind of little bits of tasters, and they then made those links from one thing happening to another, which actually meant everybody engaging with this had a different story and a different experience and understanding of it. So here's your traditional audience for theatre or contemporary dance or whatever. But we wanted a bit more of this. Somehow we wanted to find a way, through this kind of more transmedia approach and online social tools, to get an audience to engage with the work, whether that's, as they did with the photographs, uploading content. Nobody uploaded videos, but they had the opportunity to, and to actually participate in this thing. People could be involved passively, actively, interactively, or collaboratively, on a kind of whatever level they wanted to. People could get very engaged and upload things. If people just wanted to kind of have a look at the posts and follow the links, that was also fine. Because weirdly, what we wanted is this. This is what we want our audience to be like. This is what we would see is potentially a whole audience for pervasive theatre, which is, you can be sitting on the bus with your phone and engage with it. You can be standing in a shopping queue and you can be engaging with it. It's not necessarily about having to be in the theatre. It's that way that we've always tried with the company to take performance and performance environments to where people are. And if you're waiting in a bus queue, then that's fine by me. If you're kind of, in a changing room, that's also fine. So, yes, that's kind of people engaging with theatre. And this is really the conclusion that struck us during the project. We thought it was going to be about finding new environments for performance work, and that would be fine. But actually, where we've had a complete change is we've realised it's not about new environments, it's actually about creating new work. And what's really exciting now at this time, especially with transmedia involvement in performance, is that it's going to be new work, and we don't know what that work is, which is slightly terrifying, but slightly exciting as well. Yes, because everything's connected. And that's me. So any questions, anybody? Yes.
I don't understand where the performance is.
No, that's a very good point. And I was going to leave it to rather than ramble on during that, I was going to hopefully ask, or someone's going to answer that question. There are two levels to answer that question. The first one is that the performance would be on the videos, and the performance is the interaction between the texts. So it's kind of a written story that's more imagined than physical in this example, because the only thing we had the money for here was to try out the tools and to try out the environment rather than to work on the performance within it. But one way that we would like to work with this is as an audience engagement tool, where this would be a wraparound for a live performance event, so that when people bought a ticket, they bought into this weeks in advance, so that by the time they came to see the live show, They knew the characters, they had a relationship with the characters, they had a relationship with each other and a much deeper understanding of what was going on. So that by the time they come to the performance event, which for us is a very interactive, immersive event anyway, they've already bought in. And then we can kind of integrate them on a much deeper level than if they just kind of rock up to see the live show. So it's a good, I have no answer to that. There are kind of all different places where that could be, but unfortunately we didn't have any money to make, which is why we harvested instead. So, yeah.
What was the legality of harvesting? Lines and photos and tweets. Was there any, or did you sort of have a disclaimer or like a?
What we didn't, well, first of all, it was a closed group and it's kind of badged as research. So that's the first thing. But that's not, you know, that's just a cop-out, isn't it, really, quite frankly. But secondly, what we did was we didn't claim they were ours. So we didn't say, look what I've been up to tonight and put this picture on. We just put the link on. And then the audience made that assumption that what they were seeing was this nightclub. So we created a nightclub probably just out of 7 different Vine clips from other places. We never said, this is us, this is where we are, because what I didn't want to do was lay claim to. So all the photos that you see were photos that we took. We didn't nick anybody's photos that were kind of royalty protected or anything. So, yeah.
Presumably though, if you go to full performance, you won't take, you'll create your content. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Research.
Yes. Yes. So thank you for that question. Any other questions?
Sorry, just one more. Why did you choose 24 hours for the period? Because if it's online content, theoretically it could be a bit longer or more responsive.
It existed over a longer time frame, so it probably existed for 2 or 3 weeks before that. But what we wanted to do, because we were working with a writer and they had some kind of narrative they wanted to tell, they wanted a time frame that they could tell it in, and we wanted the audience to know what that time frame was, so that they were building up to an event, so that they knew that this story was going to kick off at 7 o'clock on Saturday night. They could follow it on their phone, and it would continue until, 7 o'clock the next night. So they were aware that it was something different that was happening in this space, and they could just buy into it. And the reason we did it over that long amount of time was because what we wanted to experiment with wasn't just the idea of watching a performance on a screen rather than watching it in the theatre, but was to see how you could play with engaging people over a longer amount of time, and to kind of experiment with that breakdown between reality and fantasy. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.